If you're watching this, you're probably at the point where you look like you lift, but you want to get to the point where you take your shirt off and there's an audible gasp. Speaking from experience, it's a good feeling. I don't look like that now, all right? But I'll be on the cut again in June or July. Just saying, if your girl is in Nova sometime this summer, she's going, bro. Keep her from me. Anyway, I'll be meal prepping right now, so I'm gonna cut up some sweet potatoes, put those in the air fryer. I got a bunch of chicken tenderloins. I'm gonna cut these up and cook them so I can have them in the fridge, and then just pop it out and microwave it throughout the week. And some protein pasta. The first thing you need to be doing is tracking. Now, if you know me, I'm the kind of guy that tracks everything. Like, I have a gym journal. I've harped on that in another video. You know, when I'm on the cut or when I'm on maintenance, I'll track my macros. I'll track my sleep. Like, I have a to-do list. Like, I'm just like an overly, you know. I always play around with variables to see what works and what doesn't, and it's been very effective for me. So you don't need it to get, you know, a 225 bench and abs, right? If you want something exceptional though, you need to be monitoring your progress and making sure you're taking steps in the right direction. So definitely start tracking everything. Well, you don't need to track everything, but I would for sure start with tracking your workouts, tracking your lifts. It's kind of like, you know, just aura when, you know, you're chilling between sets, just like writing shit in your journal. You know, you think everyone's like looking at you being like, wonder what he's writing. I know that's what people are thinking about me when I'm writing in my journal. And you know, it gets overwhelming. But really, I'm just like doodling, drawing little cats and dogs, little sketches. What the hell, boy? Dear diary, my muscles looked so big today. Nah, but definitely start with tracking your workouts. I like to add like a bunch of stickers on my journals. Anyway. Kind of harping on that. I know it might be awkward, but definitely record yourself after your workouts. You know, if you're a power lifter, like record your sets. But trust me, it's a great feeling to look back on those videos that you took like a year ago and see the progress that you've made. I was actually on a little bit of a nostalgic gym content spree the other night where I was looking back on, you know, like some old pictures and videos, you know, in like my high school powerlifting days. It's a good times, and you know, I'm glad I have those. Even if you don't think you look the best you ever have at this very workout, just record yourself. Because when you're like a gym monk, you're gonna need to show videos to prove to these kids that, you know, you were like that back in the day. I'm gonna be a really annoying gym monk. I'm gonna be a complete dickhead. Like when I was starting out, I thought like these old people in the gym were so annoying. Always talking to me about my form. They're hunched over, they have like hunchback. Who are you talking to? But I'm gonna be way worse. I'm okay with that. I'm excited to be at that stage where I'm gonna, you know, really bother people, but you know, I'm excited for it. It's gonna be a good time. Nutrition is more important than training. Both are important, but nutrition is probably outweighed. I weigh it like 60-40 nutrition to training, maybe even 70-30. So if you haven't, you really need to start to dial in your nutrition. Because you can get away with it, eating some bullshit twice a week when you're at this stage. But if you really want to level up, you can't. It's better to get used to it now, but you're gonna realize that it's not even a big deal. Like it's hard for like the first week or two, then it really doesn't get hard. If you're not really familiar with how you should be manipulating your nutrition, the most important rules are carbs around when you work out, before and after. People say 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, but do more than that. And then try to keep the fat relatively low, but still high enough to where, you know, you have hormones, you can please your wife. And you know, try to eat organic. Like it really does make a difference. I know not everyone is as tuned in to their body as, you know, I am, but I genuinely notice a difference between when I eat organic and when I'm eating some bullshit. Like I have way less brain fog, more energy, more sustained energy. But as long as you're keeping a good protein to calorie ratio and you're timing your carbs well, you're like 90% there. Now, stemming off that, it's very important you learn how to cook. It'll make eating healthy way easier. And if you don't already cook often and meal prep, you aren't gonna believe this, but it's way cheaper and way more convenient, and it tastes way better than if you were to, you know, eat out on a regular basis. That's another thing you guys gotta limit, eating out. Especially, you know, if you're tracking. I get it, Chipotle has that like nutrition calculator app, but do you really think that high schooler that's, you know, scooping the chicken in your bowl, probably high as right now, is you know, accurately eyeballing a 6-ounce serving of chicken. And you don't know what other stuff they put in there, really. Like, take my word for it, I've gotten pretty good at cooking. And now every time I eat out, which, you know, isn't often, I'm severely let down. Like, I genuinely make better meals at home for less. I only really want to eat out if it's a social experience and if I'm not currently tracking my calories. But learning how to cook is a game changer. You don't need to take cooking lessons. You just kind of put this shit on the stove, let it sizzle, you know. But as you may have noticed, I'm more of an ingredients guy. Like, I wouldn't have like a container of trays with rice and chicken, peas and barbecue sauce and all this stuff all mixed into a bunch of containers. I like to have the ingredients in separate containers so I can create the meal as I please. So if I want chicken and rice that day, I can do that. Or if the meal plan calls for something else, I can pivot to like protein pasta and tuna. I don't know. But I've coined the term nutritionally agile, and that's what you want to be. Anyway, I'm popping the sweet potatoes in here. I'm gonna do garlic powder and paprika on these. That's my go-to method, with a little olive oil spray as well. Another piece of advice you might need is you might just need to switch gyms, dog. Like, I know I was talking about the gym monks before. You know, if they're harassing you too much, intruding with your workout, like, you gotta find a new gym. If the equipment isn't good, you know, if the atmosphere just is lackluster, the dumbbells aren't heavy enough, you just gotta switch gyms. Like, having a whole new atmosphere, having a whole new crowd of people that, you know, are way bigger than you is a great motivator. If you've never used a Panada machine, those like new gen hyper optimal machines, they're pretty nice, you know, they're pretty cool. Again, you don't need them, but if you wanna optimize, you know, it couldn't hurt. So that's one thing I definitely look into. If you have a training partner, that's great. But you understand that he might be holding you back. Like, I usually don't like to work out with other people. I prefer to work out alone. I'll still have gym yaps. I love a good gym yap. I usually try to keep it under 5 minutes and, you know, maybe 2 gym yaps at most in a workout. But if you have a training partner that's just not locked in, making jokes in your sets, right? Distracted, complaining, you know, oh, let's go home early. Fuck no. You can't have that. So that's why I'd say about 80% of the time I train alone, maybe 90% of the time. But when I do train with someone else, I make sure it's an individual that can hold their own and trains hard and actually pushes me too. But, you know, not spending your time alone in the gym will lead to, you know, you being in it for 2 hours and say, oh, I was in the gym for 2 hours today. But in reality, you know, your training time was probably only 30 minutes. Wish I had a bigger knife. Got this little ass knife for all this chicken. They're all in the washer. Another thing that will level you up is having a plan. This kind of goes along with the initial point I made, which is tracking, which is probably the most important one in this video. But if you have a plan, you gotta stick to it, or else there's no point of even making a plan or saying you have a plan. Because what's supposed to happen when you start a cut or a bulk or whatever, those first couple weeks, you're gonna see a pretty big change. At least in my experience, when I'm on a cut, like those first 3 weeks, I'll lose 20 pounds. When I'm on a bulk, those first 3 weeks, I'll put on 20 pounds. Like, and I'm not even exaggerating. Now, I know that's just me, but what that'll do is it'll kind of play with my head. It's like, you know, whoa, like, am I taking this too far? Is this, you know, right? But it always ends out well. You just got to see it through. If you have a training split you want to try, right? And you're like, oh, I don't know, I'm getting pretty sore. I don't know if this is, you have a plan, stick to it and see that experiment you're making all the way through. That's what a plan is an experiment. Does this work for you? If it does work, great. If it doesn't work, now you know, and you won't make that same mistake again in future training protocols. So you should already have a plan, that's a given. But don't try to pivot if you start seeing results you weren't expecting, or if you aren't seeing results fast enough. Again, if you have a plan, see it all the way through, or else there's no point of even making it. And hopefully by this point in your lifting journey, you found a training style that suits you. And notice how I didn't say, you know, you found out how to train the right way, because there is no right way to train. The way I like to explain it is that there's an art to a science. I like to take the example of like a baseball swing. You look at all these pro MLB players and you see 100 different swings. Like their loads, their, you know, swing path, whatever, right? Their stance, completely different. But they have few things that are exactly the same, right? They fire their hips through, whatever, you know, they point, right? They swing hard, I don't know what it is, but you'll see nobody in the MLB that just tomahawks at the ball. What I'm saying is that there's things you have to do in the way you train, and there's things that change from person to person that you need to find out for yourself what's optimal for you. I like to look at the example of like Mike Benser versus Arnold. You know, Arnold used to go in the gym 3 hours a day, twice a day, right? Mike Benser, he just took a bunch of crack and went in there for 45 minutes, like twice a week. But what's similar about all the bodybuilders you see, none of them were training like pussies. So find a training style that works for you, that you like to do, because that's what's gonna keep you consistent in the gym anyway. And don't listen to the gym monks that think they know better, because it's definitely not a one size fits all thing. Now this was a tip I picked up from my powerlifting days. So if you're not familiar, the last couple weeks before your meet, you're supposed to, you know, chill out on the weights, right? Allow your body to completely recover. And at first I thought that was kind of stupid, but that's what the program said. And like I said, if I have a plan, I gotta stick to it. So I did that. After that deload week, that's what it's called, a deload week, I felt amazing. Like seriously, incredible. And during that deload week, I would do the same amount of sets, the same amount of reps, but half the weight. Enough to stimulate the muscle, but to not cause, you know, any damage, right, to the tissue. The goal in this period isn't hypertrophy, right? It's just recovery. And making sure that even though I'm not in the gym for this week, I'm not losing muscle. So again, just enough to stimulate the muscle. And now I incorporate that even as a bodybuilder. Now I only have a deload week like once, maybe twice a year. And I try to plan to have them like, you know, if I'm on a vacation for a week, or I had one in like October or November. It was a week where I had a lot of exams. That was a smart decision. So choose a good week where you need it. You know, if you've been really banged up recently, try a deload week. I know it's gonna be like a shock at first. Like you're gonna be itching to work out, even though you're super sore, right? Just because, you know, that's your routine. Trust me, chill on the weights. No one's gonna surpass you. You're not gonna lose all your gains. And you'll come out of that week feeling the best you ever have. So try it, you know, maybe not, I don't know. And the last tip of the video is just to dial in the rest of your appearance. It's cool if you're ripped, yeah, but if you just look like shit, you aren't taking care of your skin or your hair or whatever, like it's really not a big deal to, you know, wash your face every once in a while, exfoliate. Like you could do your eyebrows maybe. A hot take, I don't know if this is a hot take, but I think everyone should be doing their eyebrows. Have tweezers, use that like on the underside of the eyebrows, and then use a straight razor on top. It's a hygiene thing. It's not a gay thing. People think that's gay. It's not fruity. It's hygiene, right? Grow the fuck up. What's gay is they no fucking bitches. You know, a simple skincare routine is a good call. It's actually free. I don't know if you guys knew this, but if you have insurance, it's free to visit your dermatologist. You know, if you're gonna put all this effort into how your body looks, I mean, your face is pretty important too. And if you have a great physique, you're gonna turn heads, but you're gonna turn a lot more heads, you know, if you don't look like a chud. Those are 10 things I wish I knew at my intermediate stage that I'm giving to you guys. So hopefully you found some value out of it. I'm not even close to done with this meal prep. That's because I've been too focused chirping with you guys. All that's really left is the chicken, but you know, it's a lot of chicken. Like look at this, hold on. Heaping pile of chicken. Look at that. I still got more chicken to chop up. Just a monstrous amount of chicken. But again, I like to make it in bulk, and then I don't have to worry about it for the rest of the week. So again, I hope you got something out of this. Let me know what you think in the comments. Did I miss anything? If you have any questions, you know, hit me with it. And like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.